A woman suffered for 12 years. Doctors counted 7 surgeries. She had stopped talking about hope and only talked about getting through one more day. Then one morning she spoke a few specific words over her pain. On the 3rd day, she felt something she had not felt in years. On the 7th day, something in her had quietly shifted. Tonight you will learn those words, and you will learn how to offer your pain to God as a gift. Diane Lawson was 68 years old when she stopped believing her pain would ever go away. She lived alone in Peoria, Illinois, in a small 3rd-floor apartment. She woke every morning at 5:30, not because she wanted to, but because the pain in her lower back and hip would not let her sleep any longer. She sat on the edge of the bed and held her knees, waiting for her body to cooperate. 12 years, 4 different medications, 3 orthopedic pillows, physical therapy every week, prayer every morning, mass every Sunday, and silence, not the silence of God, but the silence of emptiness. She prayed, she named her pain, she asked, she cried. No answer ever came. She never heard a word, never felt relief, never saw a reason. The pain did not go away. Worse, it began to convince her that prayer did not work, that God did not hear her, that maybe she deserved this pain, that maybe she had done something she could not even name, and now she was paying for it. Diane still went to church, but she no longer cried in front of God there. She just sat and waited for Mass to end. Sister Catherine Doyle had worked for 23 years as a hospital chaplain in Chicago on the internal medicine ward. She had walked with more than 1,700 patients through suffering that cannot be put into words. And she carried one conviction she rarely said out loud, one she came to understand more fully as she reflected over the years on what Pope John Paul II taught about suffering in his writings. There is a way to turn pain into grace, not by escaping it, but by speaking specific words over it each morning before the pain gets the first word. You wake up every morning and the pain is already waiting for you. You open your eyes and the first thing you feel is not joy but weight, a dull ache, a tiredness that sleep never touched. You go to the doctor, you take your medication, you do everything you have been told to do, and the pain comes back every morning anyway. No one has ever told you what to do in the first seconds after you wake. No one has shown you that the words you speak over your pain in the morning have the power to turn suffering into prayer, not to erase it, but to give it meaning, to turn it into something God can receive and use for good. Sister Catherine kept working on her ward in Chicago, praying every morning before she walked onto the floor. One day, she came to a patient in room 12. The woman's name was Teresa Kane, 61 years old, with ongoing pain since a car accident 2 years earlier. The doctors had done everything they could. Rehabilitation had gone on for months. The pain remained, not severe, but constant. Teresa said the worst part was opening her eyes each morning and knowing in the first second that nothing had changed. She felt like a prisoner in her own body. Sister Catherine sat down beside her bed. Teresa looked at her and said quietly, almost as if confessing something forbidden, "Sister, I don't even know how to pray anymore." Sister Catherine didn't answer right away. She looked at the woman for a long moment, then said, "Teresa, do you know what Pope John Paul II believed about suffering, especially after he came so close to dying in the 1981 assassination attempt?" Teresa shook her head. He carried pain that most of us cannot imagine, and through that suffering, he came to teach the church something he had lived himself, that pain offered to God consciously each day becomes something more than pain. It becomes an offering, Teresa asked quietly. "What do I do?" Sister Catherine said, "I can't teach you everything tonight, but I can give you a place to start." She gave her one word to begin with. Teresa repeated it 3 times. The next morning she did what she had been shown. She woke before 6. The pain was the same as always. But instead of thinking about the pain first, she spoke that word over it. By the 13th day, Teresa noticed something in herself she couldn't quite name. Not that the pain was gone, but that it no longer felt like the loudest voice in the room. She was discharged on the 21st day. 3 months later, she came back to Sister Catherine and asked, "Sister, where is that woman from Peoria you told me about? The one who has been suffering for 12 years. I want to talk to her." Sister Catherine found Diane Lawson through her parish. She called her. Diane didn't want the visit at first. She didn't want one more person telling her to believe harder, pray harder, suffer harder. They met in a small church near the town square in Peoria. It was a Thursday, 2 in the afternoon. The church was almost empty. Diane arrived first. She sat in the back pew, facing away from the altar, as if she didn't want God to see her face. Teresa Kane arrived at 2:15. She sat down next to her. She didn't introduce herself. She only said, "Diane, 12 years is a very long time." Diane looked at her warily and said, "How do you know how long it's been?" Teresa answered calmly, "Because I was in pain, that didn't go away either. And no one ever told me the truth. That pain isn't a punishment. That pain can have meaning if in the morning before it speaks, you speak first." Diane looked away and whispered, "I've already said everything. Prayers, novenas, the rosary. Nothing works." Teresa didn't answer right away. Then she said, "You've been praying for the pain to go away, but you've never once spoken words over the pain that turn it into a gift before it has the chance to tell you that you're alone." Diane raised her head. For the first time, she looked at Teresa like someone who understood. Teresa went on, "Tomorrow morning, when you wake up, before you get up, before you think about your medication, before you look at the clock, you'll say one sentence over your pain. Not long, not complicated. But that sentence changes something." Diane asked quietly, "What sentence?" Teresa said. "Tonight I'll tell you everything, but right now I'll just tell you what to do tomorrow morning. You'll wake up at 5:30 like always, but you won't get up right away. You'll stay in bed one more minute, and you'll say one word over your pain. That word is God. If you understand today that pain is not your enemy, but a language God can use to draw closer to you, if you can see that years of suffering were not a punishment, but a preparation for hearing something that changes everything, then say quietly in your heart right now, in God's presence, "I recognize this. I recognize that God has not been silent. I recognize that my pain can carry meaning I have not yet understood. I recognize that starting tomorrow morning, something begins to change." Diane Lawson went home at 6 that evening. She skipped dinner. She said the rosary and went to bed at 9. She woke at 5:28, 2 minutes before her alarm. The pain was there as always, sharp, running through her hip and spine, but this time she didn't sit up right away. She didn't groan. She didn't reach for her medication first. She stayed in bed. She placed her hands over her body and said one word aloud, "God." Then she added a few more words she had learned that evening from Teresa, though not all of them yet. She closed her eyes. Nothing happened right away. The pain didn't disappear. But something in her heart shifted, as if God had heard the first word and was waiting for the rest. On the third morning, she woke and, before she noticed the pain, she said the same words. This time she felt something like warmth in her chest. Not relief from the pain itself, but a sense of closeness. By the 7th morning, she spoke the full prayer over her pain before getting up, and the pain was still there, but it no longer felt like it was shouting. It had grown quieter, not gone, but quieter. By the 14th morning, when she got out of bed, she did something she hadn't done in years. She smiled, not because the pain was over, but because for the first time she felt she understood something about why she had been carrying it. She went to church at 6:30 and sat in the front pew instead of the back. She prayed differently. She no longer asked only for a miracle. She gave thanks for the one she felt she had already received, the sense that she was no longer carrying this alone. She continued seeing her doctor and taking her medication exactly as before. A few weeks later, her doctor, who had cared for her for years, told her he was glad to see her in better spirits, and encouraged her to keep doing whatever was helping her cope. Diane said quietly, "I think I finally learned how to speak to God in the morning, before the pain gets the first word." Barbara Wojcik, 70 years old, from Rockford, Illinois, degenerative joint disease, 5 years of daily pain. She woke every night at 3 and couldn't fall back asleep. Her doctor gave her sleep medication, but nothing helped much. One day, her sister told her about the practice of speaking words over pain each morning, before the pain speaks first. Barbara didn't believe it, but she agreed to try. The first morning, she said the words reluctantly, almost like a formality. The second morning, she said them more slowly. By the 5th morning, she slept past 5:30 without waking, for the first time in years. She kept up her physical therapy and her medication exactly as prescribed. She told her daughter that evening, "I don't think it was the physical therapy that changed anything tonight. I think it's that I started speaking to God differently, not as a victim, but as a daughter who believes her pain can be turned into something that matters." Grace Kaczmarek, 63, Youngstown, Ohio. Migraines for 10 years. No medication worked for more than a month at a time. She woke with a headache almost every morning and reached for a pill right away. One day, she heard about this practice from a friend at her parish who had heard it from Sister Catherine. Grace tried it. On the 8th day, her headache didn't start until 4 hours after she woke up. 2 weeks later, she had her first migraine-free day in years. She still kept every appointment with her neurologist and never changed her treatment on her own. She told her husband, "I'm not sure exactly what's different, but I stopped fighting the pain first thing every morning, and something in me feels less afraid of it now." These 3 women all did the same thing. They stopped meeting their pain as an enemy first thing each morning and instead spoke to God about it before it had the chance to speak to them first. Pope John Paul II wrote in his apostolic letter on suffering, Salvifici Doloris, that suffering finds its deepest meaning when it is united to the mystery of Christ's redemption, not when we run from it, not when we simply endure it in silence, but when we consciously offer it to God as something joined to the cross of Christ. He did not write this as theory alone. He lived through terrible suffering himself, especially after the assassination attempt on May 13, 1981, and the long, painful recovery that followed. Those close to him said his own suffering deepened his understanding of what he had written about offering pain to God, rather than only asking for its removal. St. Paul writes in the letter to the Romans, "I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worth comparing with the glory that is to be revealed to us. The pain you carry in the morning is not a punishment. It can become a language, a way God draws you closer to himself, but only if you choose, each morning before it speaks first, to speak to him about it instead." Saint Faustina Kowalska, whom John Paul II canonized, wrote often in her diary about offering suffering to Jesus and asking him to transform it into love, rather than simply asking for it to disappear. That is close to what John Paul II discovered in his own suffering, that pain can be transformed, not automatically and not instantly, but through the daily choice to speak to God about it before it speaks first to you. The first obstacle is called anticipating the pain. This means that you open your eyes in the morning, and the first thing you do is brace for pain. Think about pain. Search your body for pain. Before you even feel anything, you've already said in your mind, "It's going to hurt again today." And that anticipation makes your body tense and close up before God has a chance to reach you. Helen Green, 65, Cleveland, suffered from severe back pain. Every morning, before she had even fully opened her eyes, she thought, "Today will be the same." Her body heard that thought and tightened. One day, her spiritual director told her, "Helen, in the morning you're not talking to God, you're talking to your pain, and the pain wins because it speaks first." He told her that the next morning, before she thought about the pain, she should say out loud, "God, I received this day from your hand." Helen did it. By the 13th morning she woke and did something she hadn't done in years. She prayed first and only afterward checked in with her back. The pain was a little less. Not because it had vanished, but because she had stopped summoning it with her very first thought. To remove this obstacle, do one thing tomorrow morning. When you wake, before you fully open your eyes, before you touch the place that hurts, before you think about your medication, say one sentence: "God, this is your day. I receive it from your hand." The second obstacle is called pain as identity. This means you have started to define yourself by your suffering. You say, "I am a sick person. I am someone who suffers. My pain is who I am." And that keeps God from turning your pain into a gift because you won't let it go. Teresa Kaminsky, 69, Lansing, spent 8 years introducing herself by saying, "I'm the woman with the bad hip." That was the first thing she told people. Her doctors, her family, her neighbors all heard the same thing. One day a priest told her in confession, "Teresa, you are not your pain. You are a daughter of God who is living with pain. Those are not the same thing." He told her that for 7 days she should say out loud each morning, "I am a daughter of God, and this pain does not define who I am." By the 21st day, Teresa had stopped introducing herself through her pain. She started introducing herself through her faith. The pain didn't disappear, but it stopped being the center of who she believed she was. To remove this obstacle, stop saying, "I am a person who suffers." Start saying, "I'm a daughter of God who is living with pain, but the pain is not my identity." If you recognize these two obstacles in your own life today, if you see that in the morning you speak to your pain instead of to God, and that you define yourself by suffering instead of by God's love for you, then say quietly in your heart, "I see it now. I see what has been standing between me and God. And starting tomorrow morning, I begin differently." Do you know how many nights Pope John Paul II woke in pain during the final years of his life? Do you know what he turned to first when the pain was too much to let him sleep? He didn't only call for the doctor or ask for more medication. According to those who knew him in those years, he prayed through it, offering it to God rather than only asking for it to end. How many days do you have left this year? And how many of them will you spend in pain that feels meaningless simply because no one has shown you how to offer it? Tonight, Pope John Paul II's example stands beside you, inviting you to speak these words for the first time. After the assassination attempt, Pope John Paul II spent many weeks recovering at Gemelli Hospital in Rome. Doctors told him the pain would likely continue for a long time. He did not argue with them. In the days and years of suffering that followed, through the recovery and later through Parkinson's disease, those close to him said he returned again and again to a simple act of trust, placing his suffering quite literally into God's hands and asking that it be used for the good of the church rather than wasted. That same act of offering, drawn from everything the gospel teaches about the cross, is what is being offered to you tonight. Tomorrow morning, when you wake, before you get up, before you feel the pain in its full weight, before you think about your medication, before you sigh and say it hurts again, do one thing. Place your hand on the place that hurts most. If your back hurts, place your hand on your back. If your knee hurts, place your hand on your knee. If your head hurts, place your hand on your forehead. And say out loud, slowly and clearly, these words: "God, I offer you this pain. Let it become an offering for my own needs and for the needs of the world. Turn my suffering into something you can use for good. Let my pain speak where my words cannot reach." This is the kind of prayer Pope John Paul II lived by in his own suffering. This is a prayer that can turn your pain into an offering. Say it over your pain each morning and trust that God can use even this for good. not as a guarantee of physical healing, but as a way of drawing near to him in what you carry. Tomorrow morning you will wake at your usual time. Before you get up, before you touch your phone, before you check the clock, stay in bed one more minute. Place your hands on the place that hurts. Close your eyes. Say the words slowly, out loud. Then get up and continue your day as usual, alongside whatever treatment and care you are already receiving. But something may begin to shift in your heart. On the 8th morning, say the same words again. By the 14th morning, you may notice something you haven't felt in years. Not necessarily that the pain is gone, but that it carries meaning now. And when pain carries meaning, it stops tearing you down. It starts to build something in you. If today you decide that starting tomorrow morning, you will begin speaking these words over your pain, if you commit to doing this every day for 14 days, then say in your heart one word that marks your decision. I will. I will do this starting tomorrow. I will do this for 14 days. I will do this because I believe God can use my pain for good. Tonight, before you sleep, do one thing. Place your hand on the place that hurts most and say to God one sentence, God, tomorrow morning I will offer you this pain. Don't say anything more, just that. This is your preparation. This is your decision. Tomorrow morning when you wake, you will speak the full prayer over your pain. But tonight, just tell God you are ready. That for 12 years or 5 years or 10 years, however long it has been, you have carried this pain alone. But starting tomorrow, you will carry it together with him. Pope John Paul II believed that suffering offered to God each morning before it gets the first word becomes something more than pain. It becomes a prayer that can touch other lives, strengthen families, and support the church. Your pain is not without meaning. It is waiting for the words that can turn it into an offering. If you know someone who suffers the way you do, who wakes every morning in pain and doesn't know what to do with it, who believes God doesn't hear her, who believes her pain is a punishment, share this with her. Don't just call it a religious video. Tell her it's about words Pope John Paul II lived by in his own suffering, and that those words can help turn pain into something more than pain. If you know a woman who has been sick for years, whose doctors gave her medication but not meaning, who prays but doesn't know how to speak to God about her pain, send this to her. Don't do it for the channel. Do it for her. Do it so that tomorrow morning she wakes up and for the first time speaks words over her pain that begin to change something. If you know someone who suffers alone, who has stopped talking about her pain because no one listens, who has stopped believing prayer does anything, tell her there is a different way to carry it, that Pope John Paul II lived that way himself, and that tonight she can hear it too.